Hari Om. We'll begin today's session with Ganesha Sukta by Maharth. Let's bow down to Ganesha, the Lord of the Muladhara Chakra. Let his grace awaken the wisdom within us. Try to close your eyes and listen to the chant.
Om Atuna Indrakshumam Tam Chitram Grabham Sangrabhaya Mahahasti Dakshinena Bidmahitva Atuvikormem Tuvideshnam Tuvimagham Tuvimatramavovihi Nahitva Shura Devanamarta Soditsantam Dhimannagam Varayante Eton Vindram Stavameshanam Vasvasvarajam Naradha Samardishannaha Prasto Shadupagasi Shachravatsamagriyamanam Abhiradasa Jugurat Ano Bharadakshine Pramrisha Indramano Vasor Nirbhaka Upakramasvabhara Drishata Drishno Jananam Adashustarasya Vedaha Indraya Unute Asti Vajo Vipre Bhisanitvaha Asma Bhisutam Sanuhi Sadyo Juvaste Vaja Asmabhyam Vishwaschandraha Vashaishcha Makshujarante Ganananva Ganapatim Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jishtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvannuti Bisida Sadanam Nishusida Ganapate Ganeshuttvamahar Vipratamam Kavinam Narite Tvatkriyate Kimchanare Mahamarkam Maghavan Chitramarcha Abhikyano Magavannadamanan Sakhe Bodhivasupate Sakhinam Ranam Kridirana Grida Satya Shushma Bhakte Chidabhajaraye Asmana Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, Maharath. Thank you, Maharath. Give me a moment to share the slides. So it really warms my heart to know that you're all here today, eager to know what best we can do as parents to imbibe the spiritual values in our children. A very happy Father's Day to all the fathers present here. In fact, I'm not sure if our parents even made a conscious effort to pass on the spiritual values to us, as it was all organic, and whatever we have learned today is by watching them. But today, in this era of too much noise and news around us, preserving our child's mental health is something that needs time and effort. So today I'll be sharing a little bit of my journey with yoga. Then I'll be moving on to why the years 2 to 7 is crucial in any child's life. Then we'll talk about boon and bane of technology as we deal with the digital generation. Then how and why to look at yoga beyond the asanas, and why I feel parenting is a spiritual practice. And then I'll talk a little bit about the common misconceptions about yoga and mantra. And I'll also talk about how and what of chanting. At the end of the session, if we have some time, we will also take a few questions. So please you can share it in the chat box. So today, we all know that yoga is our universal mother. I say this because today we have seen how her wide arms has welcomed all around the globe, irrespective of caste, creed, religion, and nationality. You and me are her children. So we find a bit of ourselves every single day by losing all that which bogs us down as we stretch, as we bend, as we breathe, relax, as we do our practices of asana, pranayama. Every year, little by little, yoga has taught us to be gentle and compassionate as we grow from strength to strength. So today, I'm so happy to see you all here because all we want to do as a parent is to give the best we can to our children. So I feel so happy to share how we can together educate ourselves and our children on the path of yoga and also the various dimensions of yoga. So before I speak on why and how to inculcate spirituality in parenting, hellomyyoga and Shivani wanted me to share a little bit of my yogic journey till now. So here it is. So I entered the gates of yoga in the year 1995, like she mentioned. So not because of any ailment or injury, but purely because my parents wanted me to wake up early in the morning. So I took to yoga along with my student life. I think I was in grade 8 when I started the practice. And without seeking any much expectation, actually, I just practiced Hatha Yoga in its entirety under my teacher with an totally an open mind. So over the next few years, as I completed my studies and I was working as a media professional, I continued my Hatha Yoga practice. But I think it was only 16 years later, in the year 2011, that I actually realized what yoga had done to me. All those years of practice culminated in when I entered the motherhood. And that's when I realized that yoga had changed my life. Because like in the case of every mother, I like to demarcate my life pre and post motherhood. Because before Mahar, I was a media professional, like I mentioned. I was just practicing yoga. And after Mahat is what you see me now. That is after my son was born. So it was after his birth that I was truly born. I had made a conscious decision to take a break from work, probably for a year or two, to be with the baby and then get back to work just like any other working professional. But meanwhile, I think universe had a different and a much better plan for me. In fact, though I had practiced yoga for more than a decade and a half before, like I mentioned, before motherhood, I got drawn towards studying yoga, delving deep into the scriptures only after the motherhood tag. So I never studied yoga to be a yoga teacher. I say this with complete honesty because I never looked at becoming a yoga teacher after doing 200, 300 or 500 hours of teacher training. I was not looking for a profession, but I studied yoga because, or I'm still studying yoga for my own curiosity to learn and to explore the science, the the scriptures and the art behind yoga. So that way, my intention was very, very clear as I started studying. So I studied to deepen my knowledge, but sharing the practice, sharing the philosophy of yoga happened by default as a result. So when my son was a year old, I did my teacher training with an intention to deepen my practice. And later on, without even taking a break, I continued with my MSc and PhD in yogic science at Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Samsthana, which is called S. Vyasa Yoga University, which is in fact the prime university for yogic studies in the world today. So all this was possible with the immense help of my family, who encouraged and believed in me more than I did in my own potential, actually. So literally, for the first 9 years of my child's life, he has always seen his mother studying or writing exams or teaching or writing theses. Why I'm saying all this is because to all the new moms out there, I would like to say that you're really born with your child. Though we begin with the entire roller coaster ride, physically, mentally, and emotionally, it is not the end of a career. But I feel with a lot of patience, with a lot of perseverance, a lot of early mornings, sleepless nights, a lot of giggles and hopes, I think one can surely transform motherhood into the most spiritual journey. So, what had yoga done to me? To start with, during my pregnancy, I had gained about 18 to 20 kgs. Yeah, not 10 or 12 kgs, but 18 to 20 kgs is what I had gained. And postpartum, by the time my son was about 9 months old, I was back to where I had started. And I could easily shred the extra body weight. I didn't do any gymming or weight training or any other method, but purely just by the practice of yoga along with a sattvic diet. But this is just one tiny bit of motherhood, of toning the postpartum body. But the real game of motherhood was being the mother, a mother who just doesn't take care of the physical development of the child, but facilitating the intellectual, mental, emotional, and spiritual growth of the child. With this, I would like to, in fact, share a small story with you all. So the story goes like this. So one summer afternoon, after a nice, sumptuous lunch, a son who was about 21 years old now had come home. Okay. And he was talking to his parents. And after the nice lunch, the father got all nostalgic and he said, you know what, son? I still remember the first toy we bought for you when you were a baby. And then all those Hot Wheels cars and the expensive Lego set. In fact, you had your Lego set when you were in grade 2, much before your peers. And then mother also got excited and she said, oh, I will still remember the blue and yellow tricycle that we bought for you. And then you had that expensive gear cycle when you were in high school. And then the father proudly continued saying, son, your first phone was given to you when you were 3. When I was 3, I hardly had any toy to play. But look at you. You knew how to operate the iPad by the time when you were 4. And the mother said, I'm so thrilled that, we could give all those expensive holidays, the best of the gadgets to you till date. And meanwhile, suddenly the mom saw that the son didn't seem too thrilled about the list of the things that they had done. And the mom asked the son, aren't you happy that we have done so much for you? We have got the best of the things for you. And then the son said, I am very happy, mom, but I kept asking for one thing that you both ignored. So the parents got worried, they asked, what is that? We thought we gave you all. And the boy said, remember, dad, when I was in second standard, all I wanted was to ride on your back, like grandpa would have done for you many a times, in fact, when you were a child. But you didn't have the time for that. You gave me my first iPhone or the phone, I know that, but it cannot be an alternative to that lost time, isn't it? So I shared this story with you all because there is no such formula for parenting. When it comes to parenting, time and love, something that cannot be compromised on. So we all learn as we progress, but that what we should always keep in mind is that the initial years of the child's life are the most interesting, the most fruitful when it comes to parenting. So I consider children between the age of 2 and 7 to be the most intelligent humans on the planet. I say this because this first critical period of brain development, which begins about the age 2 and concludes around age 7, is definitely the crucial period. My only request to all the parents here is that never ever lose out on this best opportunity that you get to lay the foundation for a holistic education in your children. And this period is also the most favorable time to establish a growth mindset in your children. So how do we maximize this critical period? So encouraging, I feel there are three important ways. Of course, there are many other ways as well, but three things that we need to remember is that firstly, we need to encourage the love for learning. See, we feel that putting them into the school, we have begun their learning process. But what happens is that by the time they arrive at grade 2 or 3, they have already decided what subjects they like, what subjects they dislike, depending on the grades or marks they get. The child grows believing that it's good in a particular subject and not so good in another subject. But instead, what we have to do as parents is that we need to encourage them to love the process of learning. How do we do that? That we should not be fixated about the results. So this is where karma yoga comes into action. So the easy way is to bring about this is by showing enthusiasm over the process of learning. That is more important rather than being fixated about the results. Okay, so this is one thing that we need to remember. The second most important thing is focusing on the vastness of learning instead of depth of learning. In the initial years, I mean to say. So emphasizing the breadth of the skill development over the depth. So at the initial learning age, I see a lot of parents wanting their child to be a child prodigy. So if the child is a prodigy, then any which ways the child will definitely show that spark. But introducing the child to diverse learning, in fact, creates new neural pathways, and we should facilitate that. Thirdly, paying attention to their emotional intelligence. So helping a child in this particular age group to first label their emotions. See, what happens is that we keep labeling the child. We often say, my child is angry, my child is stubborn, he or she is indisciplined, unruly, and whatnot. Okay, but instead of that, what we can do is we we can help the child to label their emotion. If they are angry, crying, or stubborn, change the tone, okay, of your, don't raise your voice, change the tone, lower your tone, and ask them, why are you feeling so? Okay. And also never succumb to their fancies. Talk to them. Create a space for understanding an emotion rather than fueling that particular emotion. So what happens is you're reiterating a particular pattern of behavior that will stay with them for some time. So make them understand their own emotion. By doing so, you're helping them to tackle their emotion. Also, while I am talking about today's children, how can we forget that they are the digital generation, isn't it? So we should also look at the boon and bane of technology. So what happens is that there is a phenomenon that has been on the rise since the early 1990s of easily labeling the child with ADHD or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, when we don't even know how to handle their energy and curiosity. Because many children, in fact, even teens today are misdiagnosed with hyperactivity when they don't even meet that criteria. I say this because children typically are more active than most adults. They often play more, they run around, they show a variety of interests and curiosities in the world around them. But managing their energy and teaching them to focus is on us. So my humble request to you all is, before you label a child with any particular disorder, just ask yourself, what am I doing to engage my child mentally? Am I giving enough time to nurture my child? Am I giving them enough opportunities for their physical activity? And is my child socializing enough? Okay, these are the questions that you need to ask yourself before you label them with any disorder. So what generally happens is that we tell them that you don't have enough attention span. But we also need to remember that constant digital stimulation is one of the primary reasons why children's attention span are short. We always tell the child to pay attention, but we never teach them how to focus, how to pay attention. In fact, studies have shown that kids aged 5 or younger who are exposed to 2 or more hours of screen time daily are nearly 8 times more likely to be diagnosed with ADHD. So screen time makes the regular world seem rather dull. And let me explain how this entire thing happens. So there are 2 kinds of attention. One is automatic attention and the other is directed attention. So what happens in automatic attention is we use that particular kind of attention typically when we are interacting with something that's easily engaging. By this, I say such as social media or video games or television or gaming. Okay, so this attention, automatic attention, happens when we are interacting with something of that sort. But directed attention is used when we are concentrating on tasks like studying, like reading a book. So what happens is when a child spends too much time in front of the screen, being constantly rewarded, it can become hard for the child to exercise directed attention, like doing the tasks that aren't fun, but are extremely necessary in life. So by the time they reach the age of, say, 4 or 5, they already find directed attention extremely boring. So imagine by the time they are admitted to school, they find seeing a blackboard, seeing a teacher, seeing a book completely boring and dull. And that is when we start labeling them with learning disorders. So I feel yoga can rescue us. And we all know the various benefits of yoga for children. But just doing asanas on the mat is not sufficient. There is a need to change the narrative as to what yoga is to the next generation. We need to carry forward not just limited aspect of mat work and asanas or just movement that we do on the mat. I totally agree that asanas are crucial to the practice, but we need to get them to explore the larger spectrum of yoga as a way of life, not just the practice of asanas for half an hour or 1 hour on the mat, but taking yoga as a way of life. The earlier you start, the better it is. So from their quality of life, from the time they wake up till they hit the bed, including their quality of sleep, can be enhanced by adopting the yogic lifestyle. And this, I think, is the best gift that you can give to your child. So what can we do yoga beyond the asanas? The most important thing is yogic diet for children. So be vigilant about what is going into their system. Love is when we give them fresh sattvic food. I repeat this, love is when we give them fresh sattvic food and take care of their digestion, and not when we stuff junk into their body. So I might sound a little harsh with this, but it really bothers me to no end to see parents buying junk food like chips or nachos or cola to make their children smile. Why don't we understand that we have brought these innocent humans to this world? They're still learning, isn't it? They're learning the good and bad of life, the good and bad of aspects of this world. And before they blossom, we are in turn killing their gut, their metabolism, and their immunity in the process as parents. So all they need is our guidance for a happy life, for a happy and healthy life. So give them lots of love, lots of space, and the tools to understand themselves and the universe better. That's precisely why I feel parenting is a spiritual practice like no other. So why do I say it is a spiritual and not religious practice? So there is a difference here. So I'm saying it's a spiritual practice and not a religious practice. Because we always teach the easily accessible religious practices to our kids and fall short of explanations when they ask any questions about certain practices that we do as a part of our religion. Like when they ask us to justify why we need to practice certain things as a part of religion you follow at home, we just snub them saying, just do what I say. Don't ask any questions. So you're not answering their curiosity. In reality, we might or might not know why we practice certain things as a part of our religion, as our parents might not have explained it to us in a convincing way. So, however, today I'm not going into the religious aspect, but the spiritual aspect of parenting. But you can see a lot of overlap between the two. So here I use the term spiritual as a process to seek happiness beyond the material possession. Spiritual as a process to experience compassion and empathy for others. Spirituality as a process of experiencing feelings of interconnectedness in this universe around us is what I term as spirituality at home. So these aspects of spiritual awareness must be learned, or it will probably remain dormant for a lifetime. Also, science, in fact, has proved that spiritual children have a sense of inner worth, which is beyond win or defeat. So when they achieve their goals in their life. It could be a better job or a higher income or a better lifestyle. Whatever they do, they will still be grounded and they feel fulfilled by their life choices. And how do we inculcate this particular aspect of spirituality in our children? So I personally feel that the first two limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga can be the guiding force for all parents. So Ashtanga Yoga is the 8-limbed path that Maharshi Patanjali mentions in his Yoga Sutras. But the first two limbs are the most important and the least practiced of the Ashtanga Yoga in this asana fixated world. In fact, the asana is the third limb of the Ashtanga ladder. See, so yamas are the social ethics, which involves our interaction with other people and the world. And niyamas are the personal observances relating to our inner world. So I'm not going into a moral science class here, but all I want to do is to translate how the first two limbs of yoga, the yamas and niyamas, can be used as a checklist to avoid some serious turbulent times with our children. I repeat this. So if you follow the first two limbs of yoga, the yamas and niyamas, at home, you can definitely avoid some serious turbulent times with your children. So the first yama is ahimsa or non-violence. We need to constantly and consistently act and react with love and compassion. First, we need to accept that our child is unique and always is a better version of ourselves. And secondly, it is truly not easy to be a child in today's competitive world and technology-driven one. Me and you didn't grow in such a world, but today's children are growing in a very competitive and technology-driven world, and it is definitely not easy. For better or for worse, children imitate adults. So we are their first influencers. In fact, their mimicking begins shortly after birth, like when we stick out the tongues in front of a newborn's face. They also tend to copy our facial movements, isn't it? So this imitation starts very, very early. And in today's nuclear families, with limited people around, the tendency to over-imitate parents or siblings is much more. So our every gesture, our every word, it serves as a starting point for our children towards forming their internal world. So to put your heart and soul to being kind and considerate with yourself and with your child is what ahimsa is all about. The next yama is satya or truthfulness. So we tell our children to be truthful, but when they come out with the truth, we lecture them and we start becoming judgmental about what they say. So the best way to demonstrate this discipline is to lend them an ear and be non-judgmental. Otherwise, tomorrow they might not even share anything with you. So listen to their truth without being judgmental as a parent. The next one is the most interesting, which is asteya or non-stealing. I always hear parents say that I want to give all that I didn't have while I was growing up to my children. But in the process of providing the best of everything to our children, what we often tend to do is we accumulate way too many things that we do not need. By buying things we do not need, What happens is whether it's in a supermarket or anywhere else when you're traveling, we buy so much and we hoard way too much. And in the process, we are in fact stealing others on this planet a chance to have what they need. So telling our children to have a minimalistic perspective while buying things is essential. Now, how many of us today, just go back to your childhood, how many of us today actually repair torn clothes or even recycle old clothes like we used to do earlier in life? Did we all do it in our childhood? I don't call it poverty, but a sense of gratefulness, a sense of contentedness for what we have. So I strongly feel that a child who knows how to be grateful is less likely to be depressed later in life. And I repeat this, buying things is important, okay? But having a minimalistic perspective when it comes to materialistic things and having a sense of contentedness is very important, as a child who knows how to be grateful is less likely to be depressed later in life. The next yama that I want to talk about is brahmacharya or celibacy. So a lifestyle, okay, that leads to the Brahman or the higher consciousness, and introducing our children to that is totally in our hands. To encourage our children to be, in fact, even unpretentious while following a particular path or dharma is very important. Okay, it's just not about introducing them and also encouraging them, but they need to be unpretentious while following a particular path. And also gradually making them to realize that the highest being, okay, whether God or higher consciousness or the universal consciousness is within them, okay, is acting as a guiding force, as a protecting force that's within them, can be extremely beneficial as they grow. So there should be a love for that higher consciousness, not fear of the higher consciousness. So this will give them a strong faith to latch on to when you are not around. Okay, they know how to handle themselves better when they can latch on to a strong faith. And introducing them to dharma is of utmost importance for preserving their emotional and mental health. And today it's much more important than ever before. So the last of the yama is aparigraha. Aparigraha means non-hoarding. So this is very close to asteya that I explained. But since non-hoarding is a very, very tough idea to sell in today's consumerist world, we can, as parents, we will have to show them how we can live elegantly by unburdening and decluttering our home, not just our home, but also our minds as much as possible. So it is on us to simplify their life, make sure that they value only that is crucial to their living. And this is very, very important. I'll move on to the niyamas. So the first of the niyama is shaucha. Shaucha means purity, and it involves keeping things hygienic inside and out. So with some experience and also a lot of experimentation with my son, I have realized that when we involve the child in clearing up the mess at home, so you need to involve the child in whatever little ways you can. And then when they clear up the mess with you, the place remains tidy for a very, very long time. Try this. So physical hygiene and orderliness at home simplifies the life, and also the mind becomes more receptive So you involve them to help you in whatever little way that they can. Don't expect like larger jobs to be done, but whatever little they can do at their age, involve them. Don't jump on doing all the work by yourself. Involve them. They are part of your family and they need to take that little responsibility of helping you. With this, I also want to add that gender equality also begins at home. So, what I mean by this is we should let our children, irrespective of gender, to learn life skills at home. I say this because sons are special, okay? Like daughters, sons are also special, but teach them some life skills as well. Let them learn to help their mother so that they can respect you and the other women around in the world for whatever they do. So let that gender equality begin at home. The next niyama is contentment. And I feel this is the toughest part of parenting because in today's world with abundant resources, inculcating a feeling of gratitude and contentment in your child will be, I think, your biggest achievement as a parent. And this cannot happen overnight. But I feel you need to grab every opportunity to demonstrate how beautiful contentment can be. Some parents might also feel that contentment might hamper their child's aspirations. They might settle for less. But I feel aspiration should come from a place of appreciation, from a place of gratitude, because new hopes and dreams should emerge from a place where we count on our blessings. So that way, contentment is a very important practice to practice at home. The next of the niyamas is tapas. Tapas is not some ascetic sitting and meditating far away on a mountain or in a forest, but it is for you and me as well. I'll explain how tapas is very important because I feel parenting itself is a lifelong tapas. While practicing tapas, firstly, we need to design the desires that we have with a foundation of value system in place. So the desires should emerge from a place of proper value system. And secondly, we need to set realistic goals, achievable goals, and keep working towards it with total discipline and determination. So never give up and keep working towards the goal. And that itself is tapas. So a burning desire and to achieve that specific goal is what we call as tapas. And parenting is definitely, like I told you, a lifelong tapas. The next of the niyamas is swadhyaya. Swadhyaya is introspection or self-reflection. So this is another very significant niyama for a parent because as parents, we always review our children's behavior. We always review their ways, their thought, or we scrutinize their everyday life, but we need to also constantly review our actions, our thoughts, our words towards them. Because I can't be sitting with my mobile or watching some series on OTT constantly and ask the child to read a book, ask the child to go and study. Instead of telling them to get to studies, you sit with a book in your hand as a parent. Any book will do. They will imitate your behavior in very little time. As they grow, they'll also look up to you, and imitate your behavior. They'll be thankful to you because I feel that in today's world, as children grow and if they get into substance and addiction, let's not blame anybody else, but you know whom to blame. So be vigilant of your actions. Keep the introspective mode on as a parent always. I repeat this, keep the introspective mode on always as a parent. And also welcome every opportunity to learn from your child. Because in fact, I say this because the slides on your screen today have been designed by my son. Not because I could not do it, but I like allotting tasks where I make him feel acknowledged and respected for his skills. So I feel this gives them confidence to move further in life. So set examples in such a way that you respect them as they are, and you also need to constantly have self-introspection and self-reflection, and use every opportunity to learn from your child. They know so much more than us today, in fact. So the next and last of the niyama is Ishvara Pranidhana, or self-surrender. Self-surrender is dissolving all the agitations of the mind by offering absolutely everything to the divine, at the feet of the divine. We need to, we have to make our child feel that it is, the child is just part of the bigger creation. I say this because though they are special to us as our children, they are our world, I admit that, but the world does not revolve around them. They might be ruling your hearts, they might be ruling your homes, but they are just another particle of dust in the universe, just like you and me. So they are a part of the larger ecosystem where they have to thrive in. And Ishvara Pranidhana is the pinnacle of practice for any human being, as our ego stops us from the attitude of surrender. So to make ourselves feel that we are part of the collective consciousness, but surrendering all our thoughts, all our actions, whether good or bad, and surrendering our words to that divine source can make us feel lighter within. Whether it is success or failure, we need to surrender everything to the divine, at the feet of the divine. And this is the best practice. It's a time-tested practice. And for this, I introduce the Bhakti Yoga, and I move on to the practice of chanting. Before that, I want to share a few common misconceptions that are there with people, when it comes to yoga and chanting. The first misconception I see is a lot of parents feel that they might steal away their kids' childhood and creativity if they introduce a disciplined lifestyle. I feel that a disciplined lifestyle can sort the basics of life, because instead of a haphazard, goalless life, it is good to organize their life so that there is space and time towards learning, rather than just moving around in life aimlessly. Look at it this way. So most times we waste our time thinking about what to do. We waste, in fact, as adults also, we don't know what to do. We'll be thinking about what to do next. It is the same with children as well. When we are clueless, since our limbs can't rest, okay, we find refuge in some electronic device. We tend to pick our mobile or some gaming device or pick the remote and watch something. And that's how we get into mindless scrolling on social media as well. Also, today's children go to various classes, okay? And apart from their schoolwork, and going to classes is one part of the story, but learning happens when they consistently practice or do abhyasa of what's learned at home. So one is having a discipline at home and having a consistent practice of whatever they are learning. So like Maharshi Patanjali says, sa tu dhirga kale nairantarya satkara sevito drida bhumihi. He says learning becomes, any learning in fact firmly becomes rooted only with three aspects. It can be any learning. The three aspects are dhirga kala, which is for a long time, when a particular practice is done for a longer time. And the second is nairantarya. Nairantarya is without interruptions, without taking longer breaks between. And the third aspect is satkara, that is a particular learning which is done with sincerity, with respect, with faith. So try to develop these three attitudes in your child, whatever it is learning, be it music or sport or anything. Any action can become yoga, okay? Only if there is love and detachment towards the results. So for that, let them do that practice, let them do their abhyasa for a long time, dhirga kala, nairantarya, and with satkara. So to bring about this discipline, we need what? We need the good old timetable at home for our children. At least on weekdays, we can do that, so that we as elders need not have to keep reminding them what to do. Okay, don't tell them what to do, because with a timetable in place, they already know what is expected of them, what is important. It's already there. So don't make, and also this is the most important thing, so don't make the timetable for them. Let them do it themselves. It is only then that they follow it, because when they do it, it gives them much more responsibility and they will like it. They will follow that discipline. You didn't have to enforce it on them, but it will come from a place of love towards learning and the responsibility that comes with things that they do on their own. So the next big misconception is I have come across people who feel practice of yoga comes under the realm of Hinduism. Okay, so a lot of people don't introduce it to their children, thinking that yoga is Hindu. This one really, really amuses me because, and let's get this sorted. So yoga was refined and developed by rishis from this land of Bharat or India, what we call it today. So these rishis documented their practice and beliefs. It is certainly Hindu since it originated in this land. I repeat it, it is certainly Hindu since it originated in this land, but it is not a religion. It is not a religion in the colonial concept. Let me repeat this. I call it Hindu as yoga originated from this land, but it is not any religion in the colonial concept. So yoga is not a religion, but it is very much rooted in the Hindu way of life. The next big misconception is that they feel that teaching mantras will make children become ascetics later in life. I feel if at all they become something by chanting mantra, then they'll become calm and serene person. So with this, I'd like to say that all the practices under yoga are completely safe if learned under the guidance of a certified teacher. So the benefits of the mantra chanting, we all know for our kids. I'll repeat that anyways. So what is this mantra that I'm talking about? What is a mantra? Mantra means it can be interpreted as a vehicle that helps us to transport or elevate the mind, because man means mind and tra means a vehicle or a transport. So mantra is a sound that liberates the mind. So what are you working on while chanting a mantra? Simply, while chanting a mantra, we are working on the mind. And what better way to achieve this positive vibrations that is created through the chants, through a mantra chanting? So the benefits of shloka chanting for kids is that it can improve attentiveness in children. And mantra soothes the mind, and it also increases attention span. In fact, one such study published in the International Journal of Yoga Therapy looked at how chanting can activate the vagus nerve and balance the parasympathetic nervous system, thereby relaxing the mind and the body. So chanting improves imagination and creativity, and teaching mantras can strengthen your bond with your child. And chanting mantras, when they are around you, will ignite that curiosity in them. And today or tomorrow, they will definitely would like to join in. So that way, what is that best mantra that we can start with? Omkar or Pranava is the sound of the universe or the divine intelligence. And Om consists of 4 parts. The first sound is A, or the sound of the manifestation. The second is U, the sound of sustenance. The third is M, or the sound of completion. So the fourth sound is the silence that happens after A, U, and M. So that silence is a moment of rest after the first 3 sounds. So allow your young ones to play around with the tone and the volume of their omkaras. Let them go at their own pace. So don't try to correct them too much initially. Just let them explore it, okay? And then take a deep breath, and in an exhalation, as you exhale, chant ah, and then focus on the silence. So give that silence some time and then go for the next omkara. So try to make this as a habit. So what you can do is you sit comfortably with your child facing each other, and you hold their hand in your hand so that their limbs are rested well. They don't move their arms too much. And then you start chanting ah, and then silence. So you can start with 3 to 5 minutes a day. And then once you're comfortable, once you know that their limbs are rested well and they feel like chanting more, gradually increase the duration. And this way, when you do this, both of you are turning yourselves into the higher vibration. So both of you are connecting to a higher vibration. And also the connect happens with your child when you do this practice regularly. And this connection is remarkable. And try to start doing this without a gap for 48 days. We call 48 days as one mandala. So make it a discipline to do this at a particular time, in a particular space. Sit comfortably and do this every day, even if it is just 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Don't worry about the duration initially. Just do it continuously for 48 days and you will feel the difference yourself. So finally, I would like to end with a lovely story. So the story goes like this. So there was a tiny gully in a vast city that was completely bustling with noise. And that noise was not of some cars honking or some automobiles, but it was the squeals of children at the side of the balloon seller. So the balloons were red, green, and a lot of yellow, and then pink, and then some were purple, and some brown ones. So it was a colorful gully with so many balloons around. And within few minutes, all the balloons were sold. And all except one. So, and there was one child standing there watching the balloon seller. And it saw this one particular balloon remaining. And that was the darkest shades of all the colors. It was the black one. And watching this, the young child comes to the balloon seller and she asks, "Uncle, why hasn't anybody purchased that black balloon?" And the balloon seller looks at the balloon and then smiles at her and replies, "Young one, this one black balloon is not bought by anybody because people fear black, thinking it might bring evil to them. But what people forget is that I have filled this black balloon with the same helium gas like I did for the rest of the colors. Even this black balloon can soar up very high in the sky." So what the story reminds us is that what's within is the same as any other color. So no matter what we portray ourselves to be to the outside world, what caste, what creed, what religion we follow, always remember that as a human race, spiritually, we are made up of the same matter with the same potential. So all the children around the world have the same matter, same potential, just like all the adults. So now, in fact, there is this beautiful shloka from the Bhagavad Gita, which reiterates this. In the chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, "Mattah parataram nanyata kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva." He says, by giving a metaphor, a beautiful metaphor, he compares everything in the creation to a pearl necklace. He says each and every part of the creation is like the pearls in the necklace, while the thread that runs through each and every bead is the divine energy. And that is him, which is same in all the beads. So all the beads are strung together by the thread of divinity, which runs through each one of us. So it's up to us to raise ourselves, to understand what's within us. No matter what materialistic things we give our children externally, we should constantly remind them and guide them towards their inner essence. And this is one thing that cannot be compromised on. So we need to lead them, we need to guide them towards that inner essence. And why this cannot be compromised on is because this is the only thing that will guide them when you are not here. It is that divinity within them which will guide them, which will protect them when you are not here. So finally, I would like to conclude by saying that whatever we have till now is what our ancient sages, our ancient masters have given us. But what we give our children today will decide their tomorrow. So it is in our hands to decide their future. Make choices that are wise. Thank you all for being here.